What's up, everybody? Unrested back again, and today I'm not going to do a normal JFAQ like I normally do because I've got kind of something different, I guess more of a story to tell that happened about 2 days ago now. It was actually just after I had finished filming the last JFAQ you saw, the one that was down in Amerikamura. And if any of you live here in Japan who watch my JFAQ, you probably already know Amerikamura is across the street pretty much from the Shinsaibashi area. And if you don't know where any of that stuff is, those of you watching who are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, Scott. Well, okay, so we've got Osaka. Most of you probably do know I live in Osaka. Amerikamura is kind of like our version of Roppongi from Tokyo, although really quite different, and maybe Harajuku, maybe comparable to Harajuku. And Shinsaibashi is maybe comparable to, I don't know, name a decent shopping district in Tokyo. It's just on a smaller scale because it's Osaka, and Osaka's a smaller city in general, size-wise and population-wise. Anyway, I'm there yesterday, no, not yesterday, 2 days ago, and after I had just finished filming that JFAQ, I was about to meet a friend, and it was at about 1 p.m. And it's usually a pretty calm area, that whole area, as is most of Japan. But as soon as I met my friend, we just started up a conversation as we usually do when we meet. And out of nowhere, we're hearing sirens and everything blaring, going crazy. And police are tearing down the street in their cars. And that's not really too common for Japanese police officers in general. If there's going to be a high-speed chase, usually the motorcycle people do it. There's special motorcycle police that can reach really high speeds really fast, and they'll do that. Cars will usually set up more wolfpack operations where they'll have someone locate someone who is driving fast and then later stop them down the road. So to actually see a high-speed group of police cars in Japan is a little bit more rare. It's actually something I think that might have been the only time I ever saw it. I don't really recall any other time where I saw multiple police cars at one time just rip down the street. And this was in the middle of Midasuji, which is a really, really busy street. It's constantly bottlenecked and packed full of people, and they were yelling at cars to get out of the way. And this is not really very typical in Japan. For the most part, even if police are pursuing possibly a car that is, trying to get away, number one, that doesn't really happen very much, try to outrun the cops. And number two, like I said, they use the motorcycles to track them down, or they just track them down with a helicopter. But that's really not even something that's very common in Japan. So that's really strange to me. Why are these cops tearing down the road at high speeds? Why are they asking people to suddenly get out of the way? I mean, everybody from taxi drivers to everything, and even taxi drivers drive really fast in Japan, so to ask them to get out of the way means you are really in an emergency rush. Then, a few minutes later, helicopters are overhead, and I'm not talking about, oh, I see them in the distance. I'm talking about, like, they're to the point where I can read numbers on them and see where they're from. Self-defense force and cops are out there. And in case you don't know what self-defense force is, that's pretty much the equivalent to Japan's army. They don't actually have a military force or air force, but they have a self-defense force. And that's kind of like maybe like a National Guard or a SWAT team helping, although there is a separate SWAT team that helps with stuff like this. And they're all converging over the area I'm at, and it's starting to make me think, well, it's like a prison break or something's happened, but there's no prisons anywhere close to where I am, so it's not a prison break. What's happening? So we start to investigate, and we find out across the street, maybe only about 400 meters away from where we're at, two people just got stabbed by a man who ran into the crowd of people shopping in Shinsaibashi, and that is a really crowded area, especially on a Sunday. And he just randomly picked two people to stab. If I remember correctly, a 60-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman. I could be a couple years off on those ages, but I'm pretty sure 40 and 60. He stabs the man goes down, and he's laying on the ground because he's just been stabbed, obviously. He goes after the woman, stabs her, she goes down. He goes back to the guy who's on the ground bleeding out, and he stabs him until he dies. The police got there only moments after this happened. It only took them a very short time. As I said, they were in quite a rush. It was an extreme emergency. And they caught the guy right away, took him into jail, and he just said his reasoning behind the killings were that he just wanted to see what it was like to kill somebody. So, complete nut job. And there's really absolutely no justification. He was getting no revenge, no kind of plot behind it or anything, just absolute nut. And sadly, what this kind of reminds me of is, if you remember a few years ago in Akihabara, there was the Akihabara stabbings, and that guy stabbed 5 or 6 people before he was taken out. And he was actually stopped by other Japanese citizens who stopped him. The police took a while to get there, whereas I've got to say, down in Shinsaibashi, they did do a great job getting there ASAP. The sad thing is that 2 people lost their lives because of this. So I just feel like this is kind of a thing to remind you that Japan is not the perfect country that a lot of people think it is. We do have our problems, and we do have crime, we do have stabbings, and a lot of people write me letters that ask me kind of almost fantasy questions about Japan, that they believe it to be this non-stop anime world that is somewhat like the manga or animes that they've watched before. And that's kind of like comparing America to Disney, that all of America is like Disney World. Japan has its problems just like any other country. America too is very violent. Obviously we have a huge gun problem, but probably just as much as you hear people getting shot in different places in America, you do randomly hear of different people getting stabbed here in Japan. That's still something common that happens. Personally, I was a bit distraught over this because being 400 meters away, I was there with my 1-year-old son and my wife who was pregnant, so I gotta say it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it's just another reminder that, you know, no country is perfect, and that's one thing I really want people to get through their heads before they even consider coming out here, is that don't come here and fantasize that this country is way better or greater than any other country. And by that I mean that no country is perfect. As I've said recently in a lot of videos, no country is perfect. I'm not ripping on Japan. Japan is a damn good country. It's a really great country. I love this country. But it's not perfect. No country is. And that's just one thing I feel that this really reiterates, and that all people should keep in mind when they're deciding to move their life over here or just even come to visit. I will still say Japan is a very safe country. The cops are great here. They take care of a lot of stuff right away. They had a great response time with what happened here, and those people and their families are in my thoughts right now because of how close to home that hit. And I just wanted to tell you that story just to let you know the reality of life here, okay? Until next time, I'm Unrested, and I'll get back to you with a more upbeat JFAQ next time. Have a good one.